You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Woo FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, welcome back. Everything's
Steve, can I add? I just want to add one thing. State Volunteer Mutual Insurance Company operates in Tennessee, Arkansas, Virginia, Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi.
They have a separate assigned risk pool for Tennessee.
Franklin, what I said was they operate across all state lines.
We
and
got a
the
phone
total
call.
risk.
We got a phone call, guys. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm pretty good. I'm kind of lame right now.
Uh-oh. You got your Obamacare ready to go, right?
I've been doing some research on that.
Well, good or bad for you?
But no, I don't have to worry about that, I don't believe.
Why's that?
I'm already on Medicare.
I got you. Okay.
But no, I had two things to talk about. I don't know which one I should talk about. Have you heard about this big plane that's missing?
Yeah, we're going to probably bring that up a little bit. That's kind of like Star Wars or something, isn't it?
I think the aliens abducted them.
Well,
awfully strange.
I heard something last night that concerned me. You guys have heard of hacking, ain't you?
Oh yeah.
Well, somebody said that they could bring down a big plane like that doing that. And
See, I think if this plane crashed, there'd be some signs of it somewhere. I think it's been.
How could you land? Well, they were joking about that. They said so they can track your cell phone anywhere in the country, but they can't track a 787?
Well, the story this morning is that the Malaysian government now has given them indication that they tracked it for over an hour after the transponder went off, and it actually made a course correction and flew over the country of Malaysia, the Malaysia Peninsula, out into another water area before it then disappeared, which is very strange, and they don't really have an explanation for that. It just gets weirder and weirder.
You mean explanation for the turn or for why Malaysia didn't
and why
tell
Malaysia
us?
didn't mention it on the front end? Yeah,
Well, there's two guys on there with stolen passports, and both tickets were bought by the same person.
it is kind of it's kind of a weird thing. I was talking to a pilot last night that's had over 20 years experience. He said they wouldn't ever turn off a transponder, and I think it was hundreds of miles off course. I don't really know what happened to it. If it was hijacked, I don't know what to. I'll be honest with you, it just got me bumfuzzled.
I think it's got a lot of people bumfuzzled all over the world, actually, not just here.
Well, guys, it's good talking to you.
Thank you, man.
Thanks.
I want to ask you a question. What y'all thought about this? Because I've seen some of these that we read about in the paper this week. What do you think about the switchblade bill in the Tennessee legislature?
I'm all for it.
What is the switchblade bill?
Well, switchblades have been illegal for
Well, actually, that's
many,
weird,
many years
Franklin.
in
They haven't
Tennessee.
been illegal. That's what's so stupid about
Longer
it.
than 4 inches.
No. Well, listen, it wasn't illegal. You could own it. You could buy it. You couldn't
You
carry
just couldn't
it.
carry it around.
So you could own it, but you couldn't carry it anywhere.
And that's been it was that way when I was a kid even. I remember having that discussion when we were kids.
And this is a holdover from West Side Story.
Well, there's a bill in the Tennessee Senate to legalize switchblades.
Well, the reason is the knife industry has expanded, and they've got all these assisted openers. And, I can tell you, I've carried a switchblade. And when you're out working somewhere, if you can push a button and that thing pops out, it's pretty nice. Because when you're trying to hold something with your left hand, if you've got to stop and open your knife, you got to let go of what you're holding. So for me, I'm happy that they're going to legalize switchblades.
We got a call. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Dobo.
Hey, Red.
I wanted to ask John, I heard he mentioned something about this Obama changing these light bulbs.
Yep.
Why did he do that? These are the stupidest things I've ever seen. They won't put out no light.
Well, I don't know, Red. You can think about this. General Electric, who makes the vast majority of those, was one of the largest donators to his campaign. Their chairman is also the NBC News chairman, who covered him good. Obama then turned around and placed the chairman on one of his financial development boards, and yet they also, people don't know this, GE is one of the largest insurance carriers in the world, which supported Obamacare, who now gets to sell all these new policies. So you do the math and figure out why they supported him and why he made us have to buy bulbs.
Red, the thing that John's not mentioning to you, and it's certainly true that the president supports the change in that. There's no doubt about that. But it's also true that the regulation that was passed that made the regular bulbs not permissible in the long run was passed under the Bush
You're
administration.
right, but the Bush and the Republicans opposed
That's
it.
just a fact.
The Republicans opposed it.
So
The Democrats.
he's carrying out a policy that was originated by President Bush.
The Democrats took over in 2006, and that's when this was passed through.
That's just stupid. Them light bulbs don't work.
No, they don't. They don't last anywhere near the number of years. And guess what? They're actually worse in the landfill than the regular bulbs were. They're more toxic.
A light bulb in a lamp, it won't. It looks like about a 40 watt.
Well, Red, the real point here is Republicans think the government ought to leave you alone. The Democrats think they know better, and so they pass these laws telling you what you have to do.
And it's for this Obamacare.
Well, it's all tied into the same philosophy. We know better, so we're going to run your life for you.
No, he's not going to run mine. He can stick it up his keister. I'm not buying no Obamacare.
I thought you was a big Obamacare fan.
And I will not.
I thought you were on Medicare, Red.
I'll fine for it.
Hey, Red.
Red, are you on Medicare?
No.
Are you retired?
No.
Oh, I thought you were. I'm sorry.
Well, you got 21 different taxes in Obamacare that are hitting you as a worker.
Well, they're not going to get nothing from me. Let them try.
Well, if you go to a tanning booth, you're going to pay their tax. If you have to have a knee replacement, you're going to pay a medical device tax. There's 21 tax increases in Obamacare.
Well, somebody needs to shoot that down right now.
We've been trying for years now, and then the Democrats won't even let us talk about it.
But he's going to keep on. He's going to mess the whole world.
Hey,
That's
Red.
what he wants.
Hey,
He doesn't
Red.
want America to be a strong country anymore.
Hey, Red, if he ran again, would you vote for him?
No.
Did you vote for him the first time?
No.
I think I heard you say you did, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right, darling. Thank you.
Bye.
General Motors. General Motors got a recall going on. 6.6 million vehicles. The report is that they've known about this recall since 2004. Haven't done anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they ought to get what's coming to them. The problem
That's
is
right.
the taxpayers paid for a lot of this since we bailed them out.
Well, that's right.
Government Motors, GM.
Jesse Jackson. I love this one. He's going to grab $8,700 per month in disability plus pension while he's in prison.
Well, disability rolls have, I think, more than doubled under this presidency.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
And guess what? People never come off disability. Once they're on disability, the taxpayer will take care of them the rest of their life. And some of that's needed. But you don't double the rolls under one president without there being something kind of bad going on.
He got $8,700 in disability comes thanks to Jackson's sudden development of a mood disorder as the federal government began looking into indicting him.
You mean when he
was
disappeared for...
Sentenced to 2.5 years, yeah.
Well, I mean, think about that. 2.5 year sentence and a lifetime for the taxpayer to pay him almost $9,000 a month.
Doesn't make any sense, does it, Franklin?
I think when you, and I'm not standing up for that, I'm just trying to give you what I think the facts actually are. I think that he qualified to receive those up until the point he went into custody, at which point that stops.
Well,
I believe
it'll
that's
turn
the
back
case.
on as soon as he gets out.
Well, I don't know if it will or not. I'm not saying you're wrong or not, but I don't think he collects the money while he's in prison.
Well,
is what
this
I'm
article I'm reading, it said that he would be collecting it while in prison, but I hope you're right.
I think it's while he was awaiting sentencing, he qualified under the rules for that. But
Look, Franklin, one of the problems is we started disability as a good thing. Hey, this guy lost his leg. This guy lost his arm. This woman lost her eye. Now we got, well, I just don't feel good. I don't feel good, and so I need $9,000 a month.
Got a headache.
And that takes away money from people that actually are disabled.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well,
about
that's
this
the
point,
liberal big
it's
government.
Not a liberal thing.
It is. That's the result of you all's policies, Franklin. You can't disassociate your policies from the results.
What happened is there was a change in the regulation.
Who changed the regulation?
Well, it happened before President Obama.
Franklin,
it goes all the way back into the Clinton administration.
Jefferson understood government grows, and if you don't constantly check it, it grows out of bounds. You people, you've got your president, Bill Clinton, had at least enough sense to say the era of big government is over. Your guy's going, the era of austerity is over. We're running up debt every year under this guy, and he thinks we need to be spending more.
What's going to happen between Russia and Ukraine and Obama and Putin?
Russia and Ukraine. Well, it's two different issues. If you're talking about Ukraine,
Franklin, right now, Crimea is part of Ukraine.
I understand, John.
So
I was about to talk about that.
All right.
Okay.
But it is Ukraine.
Here are the facts. The one area of Ukraine that has a majority population of Russian descendants is Crimea. That's also where Russia has for many years had some major military installations. They had bases there, like we have in other countries.
Right.
That's where much of their fleet was based.
I was stationed on one in Germany when I was in service.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And so that's the reason they were able to so quickly take this action, because they already had all those troops there.
No, wait a minute. When you say, I love this, Frank. Take this action. You mean when they illegally crossed an international border
you and I agree
and
with this,
invaded
John,
another nation?
Don't make it sound like I'm disagreeing with you when
then
I'm agreeing.
Don't clean it up and make it sound nice.
I think everybody
They
understands
invaded a foreign country.
Okay, go ahead, Franklin.
So there's been this dispute about Crimea, whether that would spill over into Ukraine.
It is Ukraine. That'd be like saying they only invaded Tennessee.
The rest of Ukraine. If that happens, I think that ups the ante on the international community.
It will happen. They will sit on Ukraine or on Crimea, an area, for a while, and then they will be in Ukraine. And by the way, Franklin, the two different treaties, one of which signed under Bill Clinton in '94, did it sliver Crimea off, or did we make a treaty with the entire country of Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely, John.
We have a
treaty. But we don't have a military defense
treaty. Then why the hell did
we
we sign the treaty in the first place? Yes, actually, Franklin, the '94 treaty says that we will defend their borders. We have a treaty in place. We're not going to do it. Putin has looked at this administration. He's watched what they did in Syria. He's watched what they did in Libya. He's watched how Russia's been able to win in Iran. And he said, I can do this and I can get away with it. Now, don't get me wrong. He's crazy as hell, but he's got a first-rate military with a third-rate country. And we have a president who doesn't believe in American power abroad. And so we're basically pulling out, and the vacuum is being filled.
Nobody would have said that George W. Bush didn't believe in projecting military power abroad.
Well, first
off,
Franklin,
Putin invaded
right.
a neighboring country.
Let me explain something to you, Franklin. This president, the first thing he did was he pulled the missile batteries that Bush had already negotiated and was beginning to install in Poland, and he got absolutely nothing for it. He didn't negotiate it with Russia. He just gave them what they wanted. He gave them what they wanted in Syria. Have the chemicals been removed? No. That's actually dropped off the map. We're not even talking about, I think, less than 10% of the chemicals have been removed. And they should have been, apparently, they told us they'd all be removed now. So Syria's still going strong with a Russian ally. Russia's still behind them. We didn't get anything in Iran. This president has unilaterally withdrawn from our leadership role in the world, and a vacuum is always filled, and it's being filled.
I just got one quick question. What's going on with the Benghazi investigation? I think I'm going to start asking.
What difference does it matter?
Yeah.
At this point, what difference does it matter?
I think I'll ask that every quarter now, where we are with the Benghazi investigation.
As far as I can tell, we have a pretty good understanding of what happened.
We have no understanding. What was the CIA doing in Benghazi?
What was going on?
They're doing all over the world.
What were they? Then why won't the Obama administration admit it? And who made the decision to add the video to the talking points?
I will add again that our elected United States Senator or Republican has been quoted repeatedly as saying he's comfortable that he understands what happened there. Of course, he's got security clearance, and I don't. But why would he lie about that?
Franklin, he's comfortable with what happened in Benghazi.
That's not what he said.
Listen closely to me.
No. He said he's comfortable that he understands what happened.
Franklin, understanding and making it right are two different things. Someone in this administration, because we know within 15 minutes they were told it was a terrorist attack. We know that none of the initial CIA or any of the intelligence reports said anything about a video. So someone in the White House inserted the video into the dialogue.
Those emails have been revealed
do
too,
we
John.
know? Do we know who put that in?
The CIA put that out
after the White House told them to. Franklin,
no, there's no evidence to support that conclusion.
Actually, there is. I brought it in a couple of months ago.
No, there's not.
You had the White House saying we don't like this.
All right, I'm tired of talking about Obama. Let's talk about something else. How about the union, Volkswagen? It's should they have another vote down there? Or should they not have another vote?
I don't really know what the law is on this issue.
There's no law. They're saying that the First Amendment rights of the non-union supporters.
I noticed that the
honored.
NLRB ruled that the anti-union supporters would get to participate in this hearing and discussion panel.
Oh, that's so
Isn't that what you want?
Well, yeah, I'm surprised they allowed it. But Franklin, think about that. The fact that you're happy that they allow the other side to talk, that's supposed to make us feel good.
Why wouldn't they have had an election? When they have an election, it's just like us. We don't have elections but every 4 to 6 years.
You know what I'm thinking?
Why would they even? Why would this even be discussed before
now, wait a minute.
4, 5, 6
Now
years?
that I'm thinking about it, this special election we had in Florida, I think it may have been unfair that the Republican was able to make a persuasive argument. We probably ought to hold that election over because the Democrats didn't win. So when they don't win, obviously it's unfair.
Ask Harry Reid.
Let's just say that I'm still waiting to see if Senator Corker's prediction comes true
about them building another.
He said we were going to get this new vehicle if this
But
election
then-
was defeated,
but then the
which
union-
made no sense
right, but
given
then-
that the company was supporting
Well,
the union.
Franklin,
But be
first
that as it
off,
may,
I've
let's
explained
just
this-
see if it's true or false.
Franklin, first off, I've explained this to you before that when you say the company is supporting, there's a 20-member board. 10 of them are industry people and 10 of them are union people.
Mm-hmm.
When the company said we support this, it was the union people on the board that were saying that. Now, Franklin,
Are you saying that the management people didn't support it?
the
what
management
you're
people
saying?
didn't comment. The point is they're at for
I'm
me.
just asking you.
I'm
Do you
just
think?
gonna tell
Do you have any reason to believe that?
Yes, Franklin, the union people were pushing
Given
for
that
the
they
union.
do this in all of the countries that they do business
Franklin,
in?
only the United States requires it to be the UAW because of labor law that the Democrats passed. Corker never said he's against a works council. None of the workers that voted against the UAW said they were against a works council. If the Democrats hadn't been protecting their union buddies by passing labor law that required the representation to be the UAW, we wouldn't have even had this problem. And matter of fact, if any of your guys, Harry Reid, wants to repeal that little provision, I'd say you could have a labor board or a works council tomorrow.
Well, introduce that legislation, John.
Well, I'm sure someone will, and I'm sure
I'm
that
still
Harry
waiting.
Reid-
It hasn't happened yet.
Well, Franklin, the Republicans have passed 39 jobs bills, and the Senate Democrats won't bring any of them up for a vote.
Have we got the budget fixed yet?
Listen to this
No,
for a
we
second.
don't have it.
Listen to
Neither
what
has the House or the
Listen to
Senate.
what the UAW actually. This is their statement. The UAW has filed an election objection with the Labor Board alleging that Republican politicians conducted a coordinated and widely publicized coercive campaign to deprive workers of their federally protected right to support and select the UAW as their exclusive representative. So listen to what they're saying. They have a federally protected right to represent them. These people, this is crony capitalism for the unions. That's all that is.
Well, the question still remains whether or not what Senator Corker did when he weighed in on it, and he didn't just come out and say, I oppose it, I think it's bad, you should vote against it. That's one thing. He made some very specific representations about the ongoing viability of their jobs and whether it was going to grow. Hold on. Specific ones, not philosophical ones like, I think this is bad for business. He didn't just say that. He said, you're going to get this if you vote it down.
If you
won't if you
your
do.
insurance, you can keep it. Is there any difference? If you like your insurance, you can keep it. Is there any difference?
I don't have any problem with holding a politician responsible for what they said.
At the next election, if it didn't happen, you can hold Corker responsible. What's that got to do with the union asking to do the vote over? Franklin, what's it got to do with the union asking for a do-over?
To these folks is that because of his involvement in getting Volkswagen here initially as mayor of Chattanooga, a lot of it happened while he was there.
Okay.
Because of his relationship, that he had inside information. That's what he was suggesting.
Why do you don't trust that?
He either did or he didn't.
You don't trust that?
I don't know. Time will tell.
Well, let me ask you a question, Franklin. Just about 2 minutes ago, you were bragging on Corker for having inside information on Benghazi, and that was enough for you.
No,
so
I just
yes,
said
you did.
time will tell.
Now listen
if
to
that's
me.
True or
you
false.
just said that because he said that Benghazi was okay, he knew more than we knew, so we should just accept that. So why are you questioning what he knows about VW?
I didn't say you should accept it, John.
You most certainly did.
I just said
that settles the matter.
I just said he's somebody
And frankly,
who presumably would be an opponent of the president. And if he's saying something supportive of him in that regard,
so in other words,
gives me reason
as
to
a
think that he
typical
knows
liberal,
something I don't.
get to pick and choose what's right and what's wrong.
No.
Well, tell me
I'm
what
talking
any
about
of what
your
tell me
conservative
what
guy's
any
opinion.
of what you just said has to do with the UAW asking for a do-over.
As I started this conversation off, John, by saying that I didn't really know the law on this issue very well.
There is no law. They're asking
of
for
course
the.
There's
they're
a law
asking,
on it.
No, there's not. They're asking for the National Labor Relations Board to vote,
Which is a creation of the National Labor Relations Act,
which is
which
also
has a whole series of laws
also
in it which govern
the board,
elections and so forth.
the board that the president illegally appointed people to that was then subsequently ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court.
How did we get talking about Obama again? I thought I said I started talking about him.
Because he's everywhere.
Because it gives you all a special thrill.
He's everywhere.
He is everywhere.
It gives you a thrill.
All of a sudden, he comes up again.
That's your buddy with the thrill up his leg.
All right, let's talk real quickly about the legislation, annexation. Legislation would change annexation. Legislation in Tennessee General Assembly, which is already passed in the State House of Representatives, would bring major changes to how Cleveland and other municipalities across the state annex land from their surrounding county. If the Senate passes the bill without further amendment, municipalities wanting to annex will be required to mail notices to residents in the affected area 90 days before the referendum. Currently, the cities are required to give 7 days notice prior to a public hearing on annexation. So basically, the way it's working now is we have a growth area. In other words, the city or whatever has put together a growth area and it's put out there and everybody sees which way the city's planning on growing. And if they need to annex some of this area, they can put notice in the paper that they're going to annex it now, and people have the right to come down and yay or nay it.
It's supposedly to give developers and other people the opportunity to plan for growth and see what kind of area.
It's basically a way to be able to do some long-term planning. Under this, there would be a problem in the fact that, first of all, it would be they'd have to send out mail to everyone, say they'd like to do this, and then it would come up for a vote. Is that the way it works?
I think that it will.
We've got a call. Let's see if they want to talk about annexation. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller. You there?
Make a statement on Obama.
Okay.
I think he's a poor excuse for a president. Any man that ain't got backbone to show their birth certificate is not much of nothing.
Amen, honey.
I agree.
All right. Thanks for calling.
I don't know.
I cut you off too soon. I'm sorry.
I do not support the bill. I think that in the long run, it is intended to basically make it unlikely any significant annexation happens.
Well, but the problem is there are a lot of people out there that feel victimized by annexation. Chattanooga would annex Cleveland if it could get away with it. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of this came up with places like Collegedale. Collegedale has all kinds of services. They don't want to be annexed by Chattanooga.
Let's bring this back up and talk about it some more next week because it's really an important topic, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know you got to run a few minutes early.
I do. Thank you all.
John and I'll sit here and we'll talk about it a little bit.
We'll be fair to you.
I know you will.
Hey, Franklin, turn your radio on. We'll be talking about you. You know that. Franklin.
Look,
I hope Franklin never develops high blood pressure or anything.
I was talking this past weekend to the mayor in Etowah, and he was concerned about the bill because it is going to make planning very difficult. But by the same token, in Etowah, for example, they've got areas that have services. So why would they vote the taxes in? They've already got the services. The problem is there are other communities that have been annexed and the city or the utilities never came through with the services. Now, there's laws requiring it, but they have excuses. And the point is, if you're paying city taxes and you're going 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road and you don't have sewer and you don't have water and you don't have the services, you're going to be pretty upset about that. So this is a balance of rights, and how they come down, I don't know.
Well, anyway, it seems to be moving on through the legislation over there.
Well, this legislation came from people outcry who feel victimized by cities annexing them against their will.
Well, I mean, do you think the cities ought to have the right to be able to grow?
Well, growth and power to take are two different things.
Right.
And everything has to be a balance in this country. And quite frankly, I find a lot of the cities to be rather. I will tell you, I made a comment to one of them about taxes too high, our city manager, George Wood, several years ago. Mm-hmm. And he just very quickly and pretty ugly said, well, that land's probably in the green belt anyway. You're not paying enough taxes on it. Well, that's an attitude of I know best and I want money, and that kind of treatment makes people like me go, by God, I don't want to be annexed and be under someone with that kind of attitudes, control.
Well, I know development has to go on, and it's always been a hard decision to try to figure out what to do with some of this land and so forth. I'm in a good example is down here at exit 20. Go ahead. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller.
This is Adam Lowe. How are you, Steve?
What do you say, Mr.
Hey, Adam.
Lowe? How are you?
I'm doing good. I was listening to the annexation talk, and the commission, if I'm not mistaken, had passed a resolution last year supporting this legislation. And it really, I think you can overcomplicate the issue, but what we essentially said was kind of to the tune of what you just mentioned, Steve. Does a city have a right to grow? Well, that implies that for some reason the land just outside a city's border belongs to them, and that they have some right to it. And if you look at it from a personal property rights standpoint, all this bill does is take the people who really own that land and give them a choice of whether or not they want to pay more taxes for more services. And so it really is, it puts the authority and the power back into the hands of the people, in which before, like John said, it was forced annexation. You didn't have a choice to decide whether you were not going to be into a city. And I don't know of any other political or social context in which that behavior happens, where just being adjacent to something gives me a future right to pretty much assimilate it into my thing.
Well, Adam, I'll say something. There never would have been an interstate system built in this country if we hadn't been able to take some of the land.
But that's eminent domain,
Well,
and that still remains.
But
yeah,
everybody's trying to get away from the eminent domain. I mean, they're trying to do some annexation.
Well, here's the point. I'll give you a good example. Hamilton Place, where Academy Sports is at.
Sure.
That sat undeveloped for a long time because 3 or 4 of the homeowners in that neighborhood didn't want to sell.
Right.
Do you think they should have been forced out of their homes? Should the rights of the many have run over their property rights?
Well, I guess sometimes.
Did it eventually happen anyway?
Yeah, it did. What do you think made it happen?
They eventually got older, or the price got high. We live in a supply and demand economy. Mm-hmm. And if someone doesn't want to do something, now there may be a guy that's not going to do it no matter what, but you're tying all kinds of stuff in here, Steve. How about the Kelo decision, the Supreme Court decision that allowed a city to confiscate land to give to another private entity for development? Was that right?
No.
We're losing our idea of private property rights. And Adam can probably speak to this as well. Politically, we're driving around. I'm helping some people put some signs up. I am so sick and tired of people going, I can put that sign up because it's in the right of way. I hate to explain this to people, but the right of way means that the government or the utility company has a right to come onto that property, but it doesn't mean that the public has a right to come on. That's still that property owner's property. But we're blurring all these lines, and a lot of private property owners are feeling somewhat victimized and bullied.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand and that there's a difference between eminent domain and annexation. Mm-hmm. Eminent domain is acquisition of a land. There's a price paid, whether it's disputed or not. There's compensation rendered for the use or the access or the acquisition of that land. Annexation is simply nothing more than redrawing an invisible line and telling people you owe them money.
Especially if you don't provide increased services with any kind of regularity.
We're not talking about annexing for the purpose. Okay, let's say you had a big tract of empty land with no residents on it, and it had one landowner, and he wanted it to be commercial industrial, and the city wanted to annex that land for industrial purposes, that owner's going to vote. That one guy who owns that land is going to vote to have that land annexed if he wants to sell it for commercial industrial, and they're going to have they'll be able to annex. So I don't think it stifles annexation like Franklin said.
Well, I can tell you just this past
the annexation of residential homes where people say, no, we don't want your utilities, we don't want your trash pickup, our property taxes are just fine. Thank you.
Well, Steve, I can tell you just this last fall, you had a whole bunch of people up there, myself included. I had a piece of open field and woodland that was going to be annexed into the city. And I asked him, I said, why would I want to be annexed into the city? I have no house on this. I have no development on this. There's no road on it. There's no utilities on it. Why would I want to pay city taxes on something that it's just sitting land? That's the kind of excess that's happening. So quite frankly, when the cities want to whine and cry about this, maybe they need to look at some of their past behavior. When you go in and you annex open farmland and tell a farmer, hey, you're now going to have to pay city taxes, even though you're not changing the use of it, you're not doing anything, we're not giving you anything, we're just going to take more of your money. Maybe that past action by the city, that sort of dictatorial action, is what led to this blowback.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, why the question becomes, why would any city want to annex residential property? We've always been told that it costs more to supply services.
It's about $1.40. For every dollar it brings in, it costs about $1.40.
Yeah. And the truth is, there are certain census blocks of where the county or private utilities have developed lands to where that reduces that burden, and it's actually profitable to take in large concentrations of homes. So the purpose of annexing residential property is not because you just want your utility to be bigger. It's to pick up revenue. It's to get money from people.
Well, Adam, we'll like to talk about it some more, but we're running late, and we're remodeling our studio here, so we've got people waiting to go to work.
By the way, next week we need to talk about the economy in Wisconsin. Scott Walker's economy, since he cut taxes and cut spending, is exploding. Revenues are exploding. He's giving more tax cuts because the revenue is they were expecting $150,000 surplus. They're going to have over $150 million surplus. They're going to have over $1 billion surplus.
Okay. All right. Anyway, thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next week.
You didn't build that. You didn't build that. You didn't build that. You didn't build that. You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. Now, back to more music on Whoop FM.
Tune in every Thursday evening for good sports, all the time, all your local favorites and national